Hello and welcome to our class time together. Sorry I couldn't be there. Got some doctor stuff going on. I'm getting old. Gotta get the limbs checked, make sure everything's still working. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you all logging in, watching this video. If you're starting here, you're starting in the right spot. So let's get to it. So if you remember our conversation from Tuesday, we're going to do kind of two parts to today. The first part is we're going to finish our notes on God, Gold, and Glory. There's only like 4 or 5 slides, I think. There's not much. So you will need your 1970 style laptop, as you can see in the video, or you're going to need your notebook. Um, if you didn't, or you weren't here and like you have no idea what we're talking about, I will go through the first slide again just to make sure we're good. So you want to add number 4, God, Gold, and Glory, to your table of contents in your notebook, and then go there. If you already did this on Tuesday, you can just flip there. We're good to go. So we're going to finish this up, and then I'm going to introduce kind of the Google Earth activity that we have to do. That's really fun and interactive, kind of like a nice chill time for you to kind of kick back and learn some stuff. It's good stuff. And then if you're finished with everything, everything should take about an hour and a half ish. So if you're doing the math in your head, you might have a little bit of free time. You've earned some free time. You can catch up on stuff for other classes, all that stuff. And of course, the sub knows everything. I have everything written down for them. So be nice. And I can't wait to see you again on Tuesday. Without further ado, let's get going on this. So as we were talking about before, this age of exploration is, oh, by the way, before I forget, I might talk a little bit faster than normal here because I don't want the video to be like, an hour and a half long. You can pause it, right? So if you're taking notes, you're like, Mr. Jones, you're going too fast. Like, pause the video, take your notes, then go on. Like that, I made it that way so you can pause the stuff, right? Just want to say that. So going back to our conversation on Tuesday, we talked about how all these explorers risked their life, right? They did stuff they didn't know if they were going to survive. They didn't know if they were going to make any money or anything like that. Like, why would they do that? Why would they leave their home and leave all this comfort of food and stuff? And there's really 3 reasons that we can boil most of them down to: God, gold, or glory. Some did it for God, some did it for gold, some did it for glory, some did it for maybe a mixture of the 3. Um, I just want you to kind of think about that, especially as you do the Google Earth activity, and kind of be thinking to yourself, did this explorer do it for God, gold, or glory? So let's get on to it. So yeah, we looked at this painting in class. I want you to kind of like look at the painting again. Now you can see it on your Chromebook. What do you see, right? Because too often, right, people look at something like this and go, "Oh, it's a nice painting," and move on. Whereas, like, think about who made the painting. Why did they make it that way, right? Like, what is it trying to tell you? Um, so that's something to kind of keep in mind, because this is definitely, you know, making one set of people look really good and not making the other set of people looking really good. So you got to ask yourself, you know, who is being put down in this painting and who's being lifted up. And again, it's not to, villainize or make anyone look evil or anything. It's just, this is how history is. Typically the people who write history are the victors. So we got to ask ourselves, like, well, what happened to the people that weren't the victors or whatever, right? So in your notes, you should have a notebook. I don't have mine, it's over there, but you want to have your page and you want to have a line down the middle. And the term, this thing that's in that bold up here, you want to put on the left. That's the term. And then you want to put what I mark or what I tell you to on the right. So for instance, for us, I want you to put God on the left because we're talking about God. And then I want you to put, see, I can draw here. I want you to put this guy on the right. Okay, so this goes on the left, this guy goes on the right. So that way, when you look at your notes, you can say God. And then what is God when we talk about this? It's to convert native inhabitants and other lands to Christianity. Nice. Um, Sweet. So yeah, let's keep moving on here. So again, talking more about God, Europeans always viewed spreading Christianity as a good thing. They felt like, hey, if we believe that God and Jesus is like the one way, we should get many more people to believe that. When you think about it that way, that's not so bad, right? If you truly believe that, why wouldn't you want more people to do that? The concern is now we know, like, there are multiple religions. Not everyone is Christian. And so is it right for you to force people to believe your way, even if they don't really want to? Or should it be more of an option that you can give them and maybe have them learn a little bit and have them make that choice for themselves, right? It's there's a difference between how people were back then and how they are now, right? Hopefully. So yeah, Christianity split into two like sets. Basically, you had Catholics in one set and Protestants in the other, and there's this like this big war that happened between the two. Not so much a war like with actual fighting, although sometimes that happened, but mostly it was like a race to convert as many people to that side. Basically, Catholics were kind of the old school way of doing things. Most people in Europe were Catholic, and you have like the Pope and all that stuff. Protestants were kind of going against that. If you look at the word Protestant, notice what this part says right here, protest, right? Because that's what they were doing. They were protesting um, what the Catholics were doing, because Catholics were doing things like charging people to meet with a priest and things like that. And obviously that doesn't really go well, right, with a lot of people. So because they split, all of a sudden you had this race. Protestants want to convert everyone to being Protestants. Catholics want to convert everyone to be Catholics, and that became a big deal. Um, Christopher Columbus was a Catholic, so he really wanted people to do that, right? This is a guy named Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, different guy, but he is kind of like one of the big pieces that started Protestantism, and he worked really hard to make it to where everyone can read the Bible and everyone can have that access, whereas Catholics kept access to the Bible and reading really to the priests. So um, I know you weren't expecting a religion lesson, but here we are. So don't need to take any notes on this one. But that's kind of why God was a big thing, because you had those two kind of pieces of Christianity. Both believe in God, both believe in Christ, but they both were racing for different reasons to convert as many people to their side as possible. So that's why a lot of people chose God on that one. Okay, so for gold, let me move my little box out of the way up here. Okay. Um, so I want you to get, for writing purposes, I want you to get gold on the left and just this guy on the right of your note. So you have that line, you do gold on the left, and then to acquire riches for themselves and countries that they represent. Got to be honest, everyone, this one's pretty straightforward, right? Like they want to make money. So pretty straightforward. There's no religious overtones or anything like that. For instance, the ancient city of gold didn't really exist. There was those rumors of like El Dorado, and like the Fountain of Youth that started spreading around Europe. So a lot of people became um, explorers because they wanted to search that stuff out. They wanted to go after that stuff. So that that's a um, that's a good reason, right? Like money. Like if you were poor and starving a lot of the time, like you would risk your life to go and maybe get some gold in the new world and all that stuff because you needed it to survive, right? So Christopher Columbus, right? He didn't represent, like he's not Spanish, right? He's Italian, but Spain was the only country that gave him money and ships to go and explore. So he did. He went and explored for them and made them a lot of money in the process. So yeah, make sure you get just these two guys down. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. So more about gold. Don't have to write anything down here, but gold was a hot item. And when we say gold, I don't literally mean like gold, although that's very valuable. I also mean just like money. And so spices were a big deal, right? So this cat right here, Vasco da Gama, he made an incredible fortune, right? Selling spices, like crazy amounts. For instance, he made a 3,000% profit. Okay. For instance, so I want you to think about this. So let's say he spent $1. My drawing here is terrible. Let's say he spent $1. He got $1, went over to the New World, and he bought $1 of spices, and he brought that back to Europe. Europe didn't have these spices. All their food was very plain, like no pepper, no salt, none of that stuff, right? And so like people were willing to pay a ton of money to like get their food flavorful and stuff like that. So if he spent $1 on spices in the New World and took it back to the Old World, he would make $3,000 off of that. That's crazy, right? You spend $1, get 3,000 back. I think any one of us would take that. So you can see why he would do it. And he did multiple trips and he would spend much more than that and make a lot of money. So he was super successful. So, like I said, with gold, pretty much straightforward. People just wanted wealth. They wanted to get, it's a good job for them. Like risk my life for a couple months at sea, but potentially make lots of money. All right, glory. This one is a little more gray area, if you will. So on your notes, I want you to write glory here on the left, and I want you to write this top one on the right. To bring power and prestige to countries. Prestige, of course, meaning like you can be proud, like everyone looks up to you. Like America typically has a lot of prestige in the world. A lot of people look up to America as like, look at how they run their country and how happy everyone is. Um, Even though, we're not perfect, right? Uh, so they want to bring glory, and sometimes it's to their countries, and sometimes to themselves, right? Like Christopher Columbus in his own diaries. So from his own writing, he said he wanted to be remembered. He wanted to be talked about for many many years because of what he did. And like we talked about a little bit in class, he was successful, right? Like think about it, it's 500 years later, and we're still talking to the guy. So we're talking about the guy. We're not talking to him. That'd be weird. But you can see where like that's really really cool stuff, right? So he was successful. The problem is reading his diaries and things like that. We also know that he did do some stuff that's not great. Like he kidnapped a lot of people. There's a lot of slavery involved. Like it's just it's kind of like we talked about in class of like two things can be true at the same time. Christopher Columbus can do some incredible things, right? That's really worth history remembering him, but he could also be kind of a bad human being while doing that. And so I think that's very true with him. And that's why a lot of people are not wanting to celebrate Christopher Columbus Day as a holiday and make it like an Indigenous Peoples Day. Like there's a lot of stuff like that. So that's a decision you're gonna have to make there. But glory, right? Like I'm gonna explore because I want people to remember my name. I like if I'm Marco Polo, I want you to remember the name Marco Polo. And heck, there's even a game after it. Marco. I know some of you thought Polo in your head. That's how popular that guy was, right? So glory definitely worked for him. And so this is the last one, nothing to write about here. But glory is a big deal. So the printing press is a thing where you can put like little letters into that make words. You put ink on it and you stamp it down on a piece of paper to make a copy. This is like old school computer printer stuff, right? Um, well, because the printing press was invented, and by the way, the printing press was largely needed to print Bibles because, like we were talking about with the God part, back then, Bibles were really rare. People who could read were even more rare. And so, really, the only people that could read really well are priests or people who have enough money to learn it. And so that's where, like, if you were just like me or you and you just want to learn about God and read the Bible, you couldn't because either you couldn't read, you couldn't get a Bible, or both. So you had to pay someone to help you do that. That's a bummer. So Martin Luther, right, he pushed really hard to have lots of Bibles printed using this printing press. It was much cheaper to print a Bible this way than the old school way, which is you literally had to hand copy every single word onto a new book. So you open up a Bible and you start hand copying it, and it would take people a couple months to print one Bible. With the printing press, because I can just make a bunch of copies right away, this will take you probably about a week, but that's so much faster, right? And so all of a sudden, people started making Bibles more. But it wasn't just Bibles. Newspapers are a big thing from this, and like history books. So all of a sudden, right, with the printing press, your accomplishments could be written down. If you were Christopher Columbus, they would write about you and then they would put it in books because it was easier to do. And so celebrating that personal achievement, was a reality. Whereas before, there's been many explorers before this that died and we just don't know about them because nothing was written down about them or anything like that. So, um, interesting stuff for sure. So, I think that's it. Notes wise, yep, that's it. So, that's all I have for you on this one. Make sure you get all the notes, like read all the stuff on the slides. And hopefully you're good. So our goal is that you have all of God, Gold, and Glory, the spots I wanted you to write down in your notes. If you did, you're good to go. You can move on to the next part. So the next part, you're going to hop into Google Classroom. You'll see a second thing that says, what is it called? Sorry, I'm trying to remember. It's like the age early global encounters or early global connectors. You'll see it there, I promise. And that is a lesson that's all in Google Earth. You'll see a Google Doc for you to kind of take some notes and some wonderings in there, and kind of have fun with Google Earth. Like if it doesn't load up right away, maybe hit refresh, but it's a really cool interactive thing. Kind of kick back, relax during it. The video I made there was from last year, but it walks through everything all the same. I rewatched it, so sorry for it's at my house, by the way, so you can see in my computer room. But yeah, kind of enjoy that. Let me know if you have any questions. I may not be able to answer today, but I will tomorrow. No worries at all. This is for you to do in class. Once you're done with everything, this is a great time for you to catch up on work for other classes. We all know that that's always piling up. But if you're truly done with everything, you enjoy some free time. Just let the guest teacher know, and we'll be good to go. Everyone, I hope you have an amazing Thursday. Have a great weekend. I'm super sorry I couldn't be there with you, but this is it. I'm not missing any more school. I'm with you every time here on out, and I will see you all on Tuesday. Bye.